Hi. So, I've left maybe the best for last. I'm up on stage because it seems the panelists all would rather I engage them in a very different manner, so they got me to moderate this one. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to call up the panelists. We've got Ramzi Rizk, I am. Big round of applause. These are the hardcore Lebanese entrepreneurs. They may not be in Lebanon, but they are the hardcorest, okay? So Ramzi just raised 18 million from Valar Ventures, who, I don't know if you've heard of Peter Thiel. He's involved in that, so that's pretty big. We've got, of course, Ayab there, okay? No need for introductions there. And just a bit of a tidbit. I was called, I've received 2 phone calls from Renda Bdeir in my life, okay? Once to tell me that I was doing a very bad job when I was at Bank Audi, and the second to ask me about her daughter on stage at this conference so that she could be here. So now we have the mother and daughter. I thought that was fantastic. Then we have Philippe Calaf, okay, who founded Collabra, and he's got a very interesting story to tell us. But I think we need to give him a bigger round of applause because he seems to have gone through hell to get here, okay. And we have Mohammed Rafi, who flew in from London for this. We've got Shafiq Kazoun, who I cannot, there you are, who is a New Yorker, has been here forever. And we have Zahi Karam with Bluecore, who also happens to be my brother. So again, this is one of the most diverse, I'd say, panels I've ever moderated, okay? We really have, between Ramzi and Aya, really wow, okay? Like you guys lift up the Lebanese name beyond anything else. No offense to anyone else here, but seriously, this is really impressive, okay? Between the Montrealers, the Londoners, the New Yorkers, and the recently New Yorkers, okay? I'm gonna open this with giving each one a couple of minutes to talk a bit about what they've done, why they call themselves entrepreneurs, so that they could set the stage for the rest of this conversation. So let's start with Shafiq.
Samer, thanks a lot for hosting this. This is an amazing event so far today. I graduated from AUB, and this event's really interesting because I left and I started the company here 10 years ago. We have a healthcare learning platform for medical simulation training. We help manage and record all simulation training. We test about 50% of the medical students in the country today, and we're also worldwide. So I just love building software. This is a really great panel and a pretty good day, so thanks.
Again, thanks Samer for the event, great event. Studied at AUB as well, engineering background. Went to London to study at London Business School for a year. Then worked as a strategy consultant with Bain & Company in Dubai for around something between 2 and 3 years. And then now most recently decided to launch Hyperpool. First we started working on Hyperpool in Dubai, and then we moved to launch it out of London. We'll talk a bit maybe about this later. Hyperpool in simple terms is an exclusive marketplace that matches employers to high potential candidates who have a background in management consulting or investment banking. Now this is not your traditional job board or recruitment agency. Our focus is really on building an actual marketplace where we attract the best candidates and the best companies under one roof, and then allow them to engage in a very unique and targeted approach, which makes it a bit more efficient and effective. We recently soft launched around 2 months ago as a London marketplace, and we're looking to launch full on in early July.
Great.
Hello. So thanks everyone for being here. My name is Philippe Calaf. I like to think of myself more as a geek with a business penchant rather than just an entrepreneur. Started my first company when I was 15 selling shell scripts, for whoever knows what that is. My current business I started 10 years ago when I was in university. We're an open source specialized software consultancy. We have a network of around 85 people from all around the world. Our clients are global. We work with the largest IT companies in the world. So I'm very connected into the whole global IT space. And I hope I can share some of my thoughts and my knowledge with you.
Hi, my name is Ayab There. I'm the founder and CEO of Littlebit. It's a system of electronics that snap with magnets for learning and for inventing. Think of it kind of as Lego for electronics with lights and sounds and sensors. I have a background in computer engineering from AUB and then electrical engineering from the Media Lab. The company is a little over 3.5 years old. We're based here in New York. And we sell to parents and kids, but also to schools. We have about 6,000 schools that use Littlebits. We sell in about 70 countries. And we're excited to be here.
Bonjour, Lebanese. Yeah, I'm Ramzi. Thanks for the superlatives. Doesn't make me feel awkward at all. So I founded or co-founded a company 4 years ago called I Am. And in those 4 years, we've moved from being 4 people in my living room to 60 people, 65, between Berlin and San Francisco. It's a community of photographers, of people who are passionate about photography and who want to become better at it. There's 15 million photographers now using IM, and we're building tools for them to get to know other photographers, to interact both online and offline. We're also developing ways for them to connect with brands to actually make money with their photos. So there's photographers making hundreds to sometimes thousands of dollars a month just by taking their iPhone, taking a photo and uploading it. And to me, the most exciting thing in order to do that is the underlying technology that we've built. So we're one of few companies in the world that can actually detect a lot of things within a photo. So we can detect pretty much everything that is in a photo, and we can actually say algorithmically, automatically, if a photo is beautiful or not, subjectively. And yeah, and the vision, the big picture, is to change how we both create photos and how we search for photos.
Hi, I'm Zahikam, and I guess I represent sort of the person that wasn't traditionally an entrepreneur, and I'm getting into that space and very excited about it. My background is I just made a switch from academia, which is a very interesting space, but can be slow moving, and I just joined as the principal data scientist of an email marketing company that makes email marketing as simple as can be with targeted emails. And really our goal is to empower e-commerce companies to do stuff that only people like Amazon and maybe Walmart are able to do right now with very little work on their part.
Okay, so now you know what we have on stage, okay? You know how high caliber these people are. Now let's try to bring them down from their pedestals, one by one. Okay, so let me start with Ramzi. So Ramzi, before you came here, you told me that you haven't had a vacation in 5 years, and that you were going to go to Vegas right after this, right? And I know this has nothing to do with the panel, but I think the audience wants to hear more about your Vegas trip. No, this is more, how did you end up raising $18 million out of Berlin? Does being Lebanese matter? And is it cool that you are Lebanese and are able to succeed and relate to Lebanon and do not necessarily have to be patriotic and go and try to do it all from Lebanon? I mean, that's a very loaded question, but I'm sure you can navigate your way out.
By working hard, no, yes. No, I mean, to be honest, the whole 5-year thing, it's maybe a little exaggerated because you do have downtimes, you do have days where you're not productive, but it's a fact. I think a lot of people underestimate what it means to build a company, and raising capital is even adding more pressure on you. It doesn't make it simpler. We say, $18 million. Yes, it's not money on my account, first of all. It's more people that have a stake in the company, more people that have a say in the company. It's more pressure to perform. The team grows, the responsibilities change. So I think it is true. Like, I'm taking a 3-day weekend this weekend, totally unplanned. I'm actually staying in New York, no Las Vegas. But yeah, it's hard. I think a lot of people underestimate the pressure that it takes to build a company and to raise capital. What was the second question?
Do you still relate?
Do I still relate to Lebanon? Honestly, up until 10 months ago, no. Up until 10 months ago, my relationship to Lebanon was parents nagging. I'd go there for 3 days over Christmas. Can't wait to get back. I get back and get back home basically, and get back to work. 10 months ago, 12 months ago, something like that, I was invited to speak at ArabNet, and then I was invited again to speak in November at BDL. And I think for the first time I actually related to people, because I was seeing people who were down to earth and struggling and trying to build something, versus sort of the cliche of what Lebanon means to a lot of people. So I never wanted to go back to go party. I have better parties in Berlin. I never wanted to go back to get drunk. Sure, beaches and skiing is all awesome, but what I really wanted was that value, was that substance. And up until recently, I couldn't find it. And those last 2 trips have sort of changed my mind. I mean, there are really some amazing people. I think it's even more impressive that you're doing it from there. Are building just amazing products and doing everything right. And kudos to them. I think they struggle way more than any of us here.
Okay. I will make that happen. You started this 3.5 years ago, and if I remember properly, this happened just around the time when we rented out your space for a really big party. Okay, I don't know, the party seemed to bring everybody together. It was, you had a co-working space / Fab Lab in Beirut, I think the first, called Karaj. And it was just about when you were starting, I believe, right? 2011 or something like that. I don't know if there is a relationship, but maybe you can tell us. Was there a relationship between Lebanon and how it all started and that Fab Lab? And if there was, can you tell us about it? If there wasn't, do you find that you are now trying to reintroduce that, since you had to take a bit of a break from all of that when you started to scale your company?
So I was working on Little Bits for about 3 years, even before it was a company, so since 2008. And I was based in Boston and then moved to New York and was living in New York when I first developed it. And then in 2009 decided to move back to Beirut for family reasons. That's when I started Karaj. I was very much energized by the ideas of entrepreneurship, of the maker movement, of the concept of really empowering a new economy based on new innovative ideas. And so I started Karaj as a co-working space and a maker space for myself, to be able to have a community there to work with, but also to help support other entrepreneurs and designers as well. But I gave it a very good shot. I invested a lot of my own money and time, and it was at a time where entrepreneurship was not at all sexy in Lebanon. It wasn't a topic that anybody was excited by. In fact, I would tell my friends, they would ask me, "What are you doing now?" And I would say, "I'm starting my own company." And they would say, why? Why don't you just go? You're an engineer, you have a master's degree in engineering, just go get a job somewhere. Or, oh, you were working at Murex, how did you leave Murex? Like, how did you do that? And so it was very, very difficult, and between struggling to get support from electricity to internet to finding a lawyer that would be cheap enough to hire or understood what it meant to do a convertible note, and between going around and trying to raise money from Lebanese investors that were like, oh, you have no revenue, or you don't have an exit strategy, or you don't have any customers yet, we're not giving you any money. And I gave up. And I'm a very persistent person, but I gave up. And so I packed my bags and moved back to New York and started in New York. Within 2 months, I had raised, the first round was 850,000, all American investors except for one who's a friend of the family, and started the company. And 2 months later, we were making revenue, and 3.5 years later, we're now 70 people. We've raised 3 rounds of funding, and things are going very well. But unfortunately, I couldn't get my start in Beirut, which I'm sad about. But I think that this conference is one of the Kickstarters to start to turn that around, and I'm really excited that it's happening.
The only takeaway I took from that was that you used to work at Murex. Oh my God. I hope there's nobody from Murex here. So do you really think that things have changed now?
There's lots of signs that things are changing. There's lots more interest. First of all, part of it is media blitz. Part of it is destigmatizing the word entrepreneur. Is that people get excited about it just from a lifestyle perspective. I think it's important. But part of it is that the ecosystem has to form, and things like this, venues to network, venues to discuss, services around the industry, whether it's software or lawyers or bankers, have to form, and that's important, and it's starting to happen. But I do want to say that I overheard kind of a few conversations happening today, and a lot of the investors are talking about how their job is to make money for their LPs, or that there are C or D funds that want to invest large sums of money when a company has proven itself. And at the risk of being impolite, ما في شطارة, like ما في شطارة to invest when a company has proven itself. The thing that is most necessary is very, very early stage seed funds. It's the $200,000 check, the $500,000 check, the $800,000 check, when there is nothing but a very passionate entrepreneur with a very, very persistent attitude and nothing to show for it but his energy or her energy. That's what we need, because if you've proven yourself, all investors in the world will invest, and they will come, and they do. And then you get your pick, and why would you pick a Lebanese investor at that point? So the only way to really, really support is for investors to know that they work for the entrepreneur, and their job is to support the entrepreneur and to take a risk and not pressure them, because they pressure on themselves more than anything. And so it's the really early stages.
The VCs and the whole ecosystem has to be based around supporting the entrepreneurs and supporting their vision, and really helping them power through it, because it's a very, very difficult thing. And those are the sort of people we want to be building the companies. We don't want people who just want to make money, exit in 1 or 2, 3 years, and whatever. We don't know what we built anymore, because you sell your company in 3 years, you do golden handcuff for 2 years, and then you're out. And it's like, what did you do? Oh, I made a lot of money. That's not what, for investors, that's great, but it's not what's going to build a strong ecosystem. It's not what's going to raise the prestige of Lebanon as incubators of innovation and technology.
Okay, so.
I just want to add something. Today, there was a lot of
entrepreneurs
talk about,
took charge.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about money. There was a lot of talk about like people interested in startups. And one thing that I'd like to also just bring up is community. And I feel like a lot of times, I don't know about everyone here, but a lot of the entrepreneurs I've talked to, they were at a certain point in their life where they felt there was a community that gave them a lot of strength, and they felt like they belonged. And they, their idea came, and they had their passion and their skills, and somehow they all came together. And I'm again, this event's great, and why I'm so excited about it is because I feel like if there's a way to build a community in Lebanon where people like us will feel like we can be there and feel like we belong and we're not crazy, then maybe we would stay. I feel like, the money problem is a big one. You've got an amazing story about how much of a struggle that was in Lebanon. But I think there's also a lot of business that can be built without having to raise money. My company's 10 years old. We didn't raise any money. We're based in the US. And I think you can do that in Lebanon even more easily. But the other elements that are missing, the community I think we have a lot of skilled labor.
Yes, please.
But yeah, I don't know. I would love to hear about the panel here. My main reason I ended up staying in Lebanon, I graduated in 2000, was I didn't feel like there was a community. I didn't belong there doing what I really wanted to do. Yeah.
Okay, so a bit of an...
Sorry, I stole you.
No, a bit of an insight into a conversation I had with Shafi like 20 minutes ago. He comes up to me, he's like, I don't mean to insult you, but, sorry man, nothing's off the record. I don't mean to insult you, but I had really low expectations coming into this. You did a really good job, I'm impressed. So, this ties back to just what you just said, which is we need to find a way to make people who are successful abroad find themselves again as Lebanese, to re-identify with their Lebaneseness. And I had a friend who actually told me something very odd. The person who I thought would be the furthest away from being Lebanese was Tony Fadl. Okay, for those who don't know Tony Fadl, he's the inventor of the iPod or something. Yeah.
Nest.
Yeah, founder of Nest now, more recently, very, very successful entrepreneur in the Valley. I think kind of remade Apple under Steve Jobs' rule. He asked him recently whether he identified as being Lebanese, and he said yes. And I was like, there's no way this guy identifies. And in reality, I think everybody really does. It's weird. We run away from it, but once there's a good enough story, once there's something to actually believe in, it's like, sorry, this is going to sound very corny, but the phoenix rises again, right? So I'm gonna get back to Philippe on this one. I think you kind of dug your own hole. So you said that entrepreneurs need to be strong and tough, and they need to be able to go through everything. And I think you have the best story. Tell us about that. Your company Collabra had Nokia as your biggest client, and
Back in the day.
yeah, back in the days, and we all know Nokia, right? Okay, so not many people still have Nokia phones. So tell us how you made it. How you made it through that.
Nokia went through a crash, and at that point they were my biggest client. So that's why I'm saying that usually when you start a company, if you're lucky, you'll go through a phase initially where there's a sort of a honeymoon period, and you're growing and everything is nice, and usually it's around 1 or 2 big clients, and then at some point you lose that client or something happens, and it's a struggle. It's really tough. And you need that's where the support has to come in from the whether you have VCs or anybody else, because it's anybody who's tried it knows that it's really tough to go through those ups and downs. Well, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking me.
I'm asking you to tell us how I love your story, because you basically live in Montreal in the summer and in Rio in the winter.
Right.
And and you run an international startup from both Rio and Montreal.
So okay, I'm going to connect two of the ideas we're talking about here. So my company, since foundation, was global. The founders I was in Montreal. The co-founder was in the UK. We grew the company like that. We have engineers working from home. Over 30 cities. I have one client in Montreal. Our clients are all around the world. So basically what I'm trying to say is we don't need to, the idea of building a company today, it has to be in one office and one location, is passé, it's done. It's been proven by me, by lots of other companies, and actually most of my clients who are multi-billion-dollar corporations now have completely teams that are different geographies, not only from the engineering side. Companies like Intel, who are based in Portland, have VPs working from home in New York. It's just with the technology, these things are possible. And I think this connects well with the point about are you Lebanese? Do you feel connected to Lebanon? Do we have to go back to Lebanon to do business there? It's not like that anymore. It's about people who are connecting, and who you're connecting with, and how you're working with people. Obviously, there's always the issue of who's going to take your taxes. If you're making money, you're paying taxes to someone, some government somewhere, and that becomes a separate issue. But I think overall, what's important is for us as the Lebanese who are doing business not necessarily in Lebanon, and living in a world that's becoming more and more globalized. It's more about us being ambassadors to the Lebanese culture, in this new, I don't want to say a cliche word like, melting pot or anything like that, but there is a global culture that's emerging in the world. It's a culture from the arts, from entrepreneurship, from everything. And it's based around the English languages as well, in terms of how people communicate. And we want to make sure that the Lebanese culture is part of that new culture that's emerging, and that's sort of how I see my role as a Lebanese, doing business not necessarily in Lebanon. I'm connected to Lebanon, I go back a lot, I have family and everything, but maybe I wouldn't necessarily do business in Lebanon right now, but I do want to inject the Lebanese culture and the Lebanese, business culture, which has been around for thousands of years, into this new global culture that's coming up.
Well, it's. I think you actually drove it home. So a bit of a loaded question, yes, no. You're basically a virtual company.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Is there a scenario in which this could possibly happen in Lebanon?
I don't see why not. Obviously, one of to be able to do this relies a lot on technology. I'm talking about the internet. And by the way, if you guys are not looking at virtual reality yet, you should really be looking at it, because that's going to bring that virtual, company and space. Even it's going to push it all the way to the end. Where you will, today it started with some chat, some VoIP, some video conferencing, and now it's VR. So you need to have the internet. There's a technology limitation. To be able to do this, you need to have a good internet connection.
Okay. Okay, so Mohammed, you're, I think, the only consultant here, right? Anyone else? Well, Murex to a certain extent, but we don't want to talk about that. So, how did you get from being a consultant to being an entrepreneur? They're like opposite ends of the spectrum.
Not really. I went into consulting knowing that I'm going to be an entrepreneur. So I always knew I was going to, I don't know the term back then, but I always wanted to start a company. I was raised in an environment where we do business, we sell things, this was how I was raised. So I always knew I was going to be in business somehow. And we're not going to go into why I did engineering in the first place. It's a story for another day. But this is why I went to London Business School, and then I decided, I went there with the kind of goal to actually set up a company after that. And then I was working on a couple of things there, but nothing really panned out, and I got this opportunity with a great company to get a great experience, and I went for it. And it always was in the back of my head, and I ended up doing it. But I'm not against really someone waiting a bit and going into I wouldn't call it a corporate environment, but doing something before starting his own company. If you have a great idea and you believe in something, you should definitely go for it, even if you're not going to go into university. But if you're not sure, or you think you need a bit more time, you definitely should. I was very against it before that when my parents or everyone told me, go have a couple of years in a proper corporate environment. I was against it, but now I know the value for a couple of reasons.
So, okay, so that lines up perfectly with, you're a very calculating person, okay? Calculated, I would say the word is.
To some extent, yeah.
Sorry, there's just someone talking in my ear. You're a very calculated person, and you made a very, very strategic decision to actually set up shop in London, whereas you could have done so in Dubai. Dubai would have brought you closer to Lebanon, but you made it a business decision to be in London. This is maybe a question for everyone, but primarily targeting you. Do you think we need to be patriotic in just doing bad business decisions and being in Lebanon, or we should strive to be as good as it gets and just not forget that we are Lebanese, and once we do get there, give back? And that's always the problem of, I'll help when I have enough, and so once you have too much, you forget to help, and you've changed as a person. So, can you help us with that question?
Okay, I'm going to be very honest here. I don't believe in doing business for patriotic reasons. You can do a lot of other things to give back to your country, not start a business and fail because of that. However, there are very strong business strategic reasons to actually be in Lebanon in some way or another. I cannot have a front office in Lebanon because I sell, or our clients are the Goldman Sachs, Facebooks, and McKinseys of the world. So I cannot be based out of Lebanon. I need to have meetings with those companies. I need to sell to those companies. However, you know very well that, and a lot of people here know very well that I'm trying very hard to actually set up a tech team in Lebanon. Initially, when we left Dubai, we kept the Dubai office. We kept the Dubai entity going because we thought we were gonna recruit a tech team in Dubai. But then we realized with time that, as everyone said here, the cost structure in Lebanon is much better than Dubai. We have great talent. We can talk about the talent a bit later because I have some thoughts on that. But we do have great talent. We can have a presence in Beirut or Lebanon, wherever, without it being a bad business decision. But it depends on from business to business. We cannot generalize. We cannot say we should bring back the entrepreneurs. We should understand the limitations of this and how to actually approach this.
So you just hired someone in Lebanon?
Yeah, for now on a freelance basis, yeah.
Okay, that's good to hear.
So, Simon, your question is an important one. I've gotten it many times over the years. Some friends who live in Lebanon have, in the early years, used to say, "Why are you leaving? Why are you leaving?" And maybe it's a way that I've justified it. But I think when you have really good stories for people in Lebanon to look to, you know, like people here on this panel, where people in Lebanon can say, "Oh, we can do this as Lebanese people." That's my way of initially giving back. And I think the next frontier, which is how we got connected through Henri, is if there's a way to connect the people outside with Lebanon. Because at the end of the day, I would have loved to have done it in Lebanon a long time ago, but it wasn't possible, and for many reasons. So I think I also want to say that just because I'm not in Lebanon, I don't feel like I'm not helping. Because you need to be out there giving some legitimacy to people being able to pull this off and have a connection back with Lebanon.
So this is where I ask you, what are you going to do to give back?
Let's see. I mean, my headquarters is in DC, I'm here in New York, and I open an office here, but at the end of the day I was like, there's all these startups everywhere in the world, what's going on in Lebanon? And the central bank move is very, very interesting. So maybe a little bit of a wait and see approach, but I'd love to help people stay there when they're younger because they think that they can pull it off without having to leave, if there's a way.
Okay. And Zahi, this is weird. Has this ever happened before? So I think at least 20% of the people who registered for this conference registered with a .edu email. Lots of people in academia, and I've been harassing you to get out of academia for 15 years. He got a PhD from MIT, and I'm not sure what your feelings about that are. How can we convert more people from academia to entrepreneurship, especially since so many Lebanese are obsessive about academia?
Well, I think one of the things that is unique to entrepreneurship, I think, is how fast-moving things can be. And academia is the complete opposite. So that was my experience, even though I wasn't an entrepreneur while I was doing my postdoctoral program. We were essentially building something that we were hoping to commercialize, and it was extremely slow moving. And it was through that experience that I learned the value of the correct team. I think that was, you need to be married to that team for several years, and somewhere at year 3, that's when it became clear to me that that wasn't the correct team, and that's when I said, okay, this is too slow moving, this is not the correct team, let's move and do something else. And so that's sort of why I left academia. I think academia has its role. I think if if your goal to be a professor, that's great. But if you want to build something, that people will use immediately, if you want to build something that you will see out there in the wild and not just in a controlled environment, I really think you need to be, in the commercial space. And that's, yeah.
So just a heads up, he built this app that could predict
As a heads up, I'm going to cut you off. It couldn't predict. The point of it was to change the paradigm of monitoring psychiatric patients by, rather than it being they have an episode, you react, you monitor them constantly through a cell phone application that records all their conversations in a secure and private manner and analyzes it for mood symptoms. And it's a great idea, and it's an idea that I'm sure at some point will be commercialized, if not by the past team, by other people. But the main problem with that is, at least in academia, you have to go through, very strict internal review boards, which are there for a reason, obviously, I support all of that. But also, it takes many years to collect the data because you target a very small segment of society versus releasing an application that might not be as powerful, but that will be downloaded millions of times.
So the takeaway from that is that had you not been in academia, I'm trying to get this to the audience, you would be a lot richer right now.
Yes.
Okay. So did you all hear that? Okay, that's good. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's another reason why I left academia. There's more money in entrepreneurship.
Okay, so okay, so I think the audience has a lot to ask, so I'm going to open this to the audience now.
Could this ecosystem that you're trying to build also be a virtual one? What does it have to do with them coming back to Lebanon? Why is that so crucial?
GDP?
Yeah.
Sectors that are not particularly fast-moving, fast-growing. So if we want to grow our GDP, we have to look at new industries, new economies, and which is what the governor said. I want there to be 3 pillars: financial, oil and gas, and knowledge economy. And if we can push the knowledge economy up, then we could potentially double, triple our GDP. Honestly, there's no reason why we couldn't. If you look at the GDP of our neighbors, they are doing a lot better and they're roughly our size. But yeah.
But can I make just one more point to the politicians in the room? We don't trust the Lebanese government to properly handle the money we would potentially give them. Some of it gets stolen, a lot. Most of it gets mismanaged. Nothing happens with it. So for someone like me who has dual nationality, I'd rather give my money to a different government because I know it's going to be used better.
Harper's government?
So it's still better. Imagine.
So I think another important reason I would imagine is the experience. I think some people that have tried to set up in Lebanon and have had a bit of trouble finding whether it's on the hardware side or even back-end web developers, or even if you want to think in my space, data scientists that can scale at the billions of data points. I think that goes beyond the kind of education you can get as a bachelor's degree, even if you're doing computer science. It's a very specialized type of education because it's very timely. It's the Lebanese, any big university system doesn't move as fast as the entrepreneurial space, and I think the best educators are going to be the people that go back and that have learned all these skills and eventually hopefully go back and make a difference there. I think that's
one more. I'd like to wrap this up with just maybe taking a positive note, taking away from what you all said. It seems that there is a massive desire. Sorry, the sound guys are telling me that their cell phones don't work in their apartments and they have Verizon. So I honestly, what am I supposed to say? This is worse than Lebanon. It works in my apartment in Lebanon. But yeah, you guys all believe that there is an education component. We're not talking academia, okay? An education component for the entrepreneurs in Lebanon that is lacking. And that's a large part of why you're not going back. There's a ton of money. There is now a bit of a clustering happening, but there isn't that spark where every day you learn something new. And I think most of the entrepreneurs coming from Lebanon, they come here to get that breath of fresh air. Oh my God, I'm learning. I'm in San Francisco, I'm in New York, I'm in Berlin. I met someone who knows something and is not talking about Skybar. So, for that to happen, I'm going to need all of you, okay, to pledge in front of all these people that you are going to teach these entrepreneurs who come to you, okay, from machine learning to hardware to how to run a company from Rio. Okay, I don't know how anyone can run a company from Rio. I would be on the beach.
It's not Rio, it's just anywhere.
Yeah, that's the problem. And how to do all that, simply because we really need to build that bridge. And the bridge can't be built by institutions, no offense to Lisa, it can only be built by people, okay? And you are the people. You are the success stories, you have made it, and you have to build that bridge. So, are you in?
Any opportunity to share knowledge will always take, I mean, I'll always take it for sure.
Yeah?
In?
Ramzi?
I've been trying to hire Lebanese engineers for the past 4 years.
Okay.
If anyone here has is looking for a job, just come fetch me.
Zahi? In. Muhammad? Of course. Shafi? Of course. Okay, so that's...
I'm going to be the
Thank you.